In this video, we're going to be taking a look at a little CorelDRAW project. Now, this was something that was sent to me by a customer, and Debbie is looking to create this logo in CorelDRAW in vinyl. So she can cut it out of either glitter or regular heat press vinyl material. And I'm pretty sure I did this logo before for her, but can't seem to find it. So I thought, well, this would make for a good video demonstration. And what I was telling her is this is basically a paint by number um, or kind of a connect the dot type of artwork. So I want to show you just how easy it is in some of the little things that I do when I'm creating a logo, some of those little extra steps that I do, and a couple little tricks to help facilitate to create this logo pretty simply. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to draw some guidelines. So I have my rulers visible here in CorelDRAW. If your rulers are not visible, you can go under the View menu and click Rulers right here. The older versions might be under the Show menu, but there's the rulers. So our rulers are visible, and we're just going to pull down from the top ruler a guideline and another guideline. Now, here's the first thing that I would do extra that a lot of people wouldn't bother with. First of all, the very first option here is Snap to Guidelines on our custom toolbar, which is available on the website in the freebie section. But the first thing that I would do is the blue area should be the same height as the black area. So rather than just draw a guideline down and guess that that's about right, I would prefer to have it exact. So I'm just going to take my rectangle tool, and we can snap to a guideline, snap to a guideline. And now we have a rectangle that is exactly guideline to guideline. So now I can pick up my rectangle tool, or my rectangle. You have to be careful when you are dragging it, that you drag it from the corner point here, and snap it to this guideline, and then I can move this guideline and snap it right in place. So now I know that that is exactly the same height. And we're going to do something similar here, where we're going to pull over a guideline, pull over another guideline to define the middle, but I don't know how wide this is. So again, I just drag out a rectangle, I go ahead and move it, snap it to this guideline, and then I have something to snap to where I can snap to another guideline. Now you'll notice that you can see this guideline is kind of going against the grain just a tiny little bit from the original artwork, but you're going to have those minor differences anyhow. All right. So now we have that in place. So now I'm going to go ahead and pull down another guideline. I'm going to pull down to define the top, and we need to define this point. So we're going to put one there, and we need to define this point down here, right here. This point we need to define. We need to define that point. So we're going to define that point there, and we're going to define that point there. Okay. So, but we're only going to do half of this because the other side is basically the same, just kind of backwards, if you will. So I'll show you kind of what we're going to do here just to kind of get things rolling. But let's just go ahead and connect the dots, or kind of like I was saying before, kind of a paint by number. We do actually have one more corner here that we need to define. So we'll define that, and let's just take a quick look. I think everything else is defined. So now that we have everything defined, we can grab our pen tool and begin by snapping. So right here, we're going to snap to that intersection, to this intersection. And if you accidentally, you can back up a step. Just hit Control-Z. I want to make sure we snap right to that intersection. And we're not going to worry about this going horizontally. We're just going to go up top and over. So you can see, once you have your guidelines in place, all we're doing is snapping to intersecting points. All right? So now we're going to continue on, and we're going to make a few more connections from point to point. And I just hit the space bar to exit out of the pen tool, and then hit the space bar to go back into the pen tool. And it does look like we have, see, there's one point here that we didn't actually define, but that's okay. We can go ahead and do that now. So we just click and click. As long as we're snapping to that point, we should be fine. Okay. So then what we need to do is we do need to snap right there at that point to create this point as well. All right. So now we kind of have the basis of this side all done for us. So now all we need to do, now that we have all this in place, is grab our Smart Fill tool and let's just go ahead and fill in that first section and that section. Let's change our color up and fill in the other section. Okay. So now you can kind of see what we've done. So now what we want to do is, can we take these two, there's three bits here. Can we take those 3 bits and just kind of copy them over, and we'll go ahead and mirror them and position them over on this side. Now I am going to right click to get rid of my outlines for this side. But you can see on the opposite side, you can see that the colors are just backwards. All right, so what we need to do is go ahead and fill that with a light color gray, and then fill this with the blue. Okay, so this we'll go ahead and fill with blue and blue, and this we'll fill with the light gray. All right, so now that we kind of have these in place, what I'm going to probably do is just pull these 3 pieces away and take a look at them by themselves. So we'll go ahead and right click, and I tell you what we're going to do. Let's unlock. Let's bring our bitmap down so we can maybe look at that too, because I need to see what we're actually going to do here. And so now we just kind of have to connect things. You can see here too, there's, if you look at this side is good, but this side is not accurate because we need another section here. So we'll just go ahead and we can grab our pen tool again. And I tell you what, let's grab our 2-point line tool and make that connection, because that needs to be blue too. So we'll just go ahead and fill that little bit in, and we'll right click. And so now you can see we have that extra little bit that we have filled in. So we'll go ahead and weld those 2 pieces together. So now you can see we have the same shape. So now it's just a matter of connecting things here. So what we're going to do here, this is black. So let's go ahead and make that black and make this black. And this, what we're going to do, we're going to trim this little gray piece. So that's what trim does. And then we can fill that with black. All right, so now we just have to connect the blue piece here. So that should be pretty straightforward. We have a blue piece to connect, and then we also have a black piece to connect. But you can see part of this blue piece. I don't know if we can see that. Yeah, see here, we have to figure out the height again. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab our 2-point line tool, and we know that is going to be the connecting point right here, going across the bottom. So if you look at this, you can see where this point is that point right there. So this is the middle point going across. So there's the middle point. So now what we need is this distance upwards. So what we will do is I'll drag out a little rectangle, and we can snap from object to object, pull up that rectangle, then we can take this and just copy it straight up and right to the edge. So now we have everything the same exact width. All right. So this first portion here is going to be filled with blue. All right. So let's go ahead and I'll tell you what we're going to do. And then the bottom part, we're going to fill it with black. It gets filled with black. So we'll go ahead and fill that with black. And so now you can kind of see what this is all, how this is all going to come together. So we'll just let's see here. We'll get rid of our outline on that piece, and we'll go ahead and get rid of our outline there. We have an outline there that you can't actually see. So again, this is blue, this is black. It does have an outline, so we'll get rid of that too. So now we just have to kind of connect. So we'll take this piece and this piece and this piece and weld all those together. So now that's one piece. And then we need to do the exact, there is actually a black line there that we can't see. But then these two pieces, we're going to weld those together. And now you can see, but we do have this angle. I didn't account for the angle. So let's just go ahead and draw some guidelines down. And we have that connecting point there. So let's go ahead and go from that point to there. And then I can grab my node edit tool to actually just bring that node over to that point. And that will give us the right angle, but we will have to trim the black back to reveal. Okay? So now you can kind of see how easy it really was to create that logo, because this just really just a bunch of straight lines. And then, of course, to get the Y offset, well, that's pretty straightforward, obviously, because we'll go ahead and group that together, and then we can use our contour tool here in CorelDRAW, our interactive contour tool, and we can go ahead and contour, this out as much as we want. Now, you will see that it does give us kind of this weird corner point, and that's probably because of how our artwork is set up. We could try something. Let's go ahead and undo that. We could try to create a new shape. Sometimes that does help, and there is an option right here, down here, which is our boundary. See, it says create boundary. So now we have our boundary, and now we can try and contour the boundary shape. And now you can see we get a much better result when we're doing it that way. So, these are just little tips that you kind of learn along the way. Let's go ahead and right click on that offset. Let's go ahead and give it a color so we can see it, but we just want just the outline here. So let's give it a color, and I think what we need to do is push it to the bottom, shift page down, and then we can get rid of our boundary object. And then you can see we have basically the same vector as we had previously. So that is pretty simple to do. Now, let's talk about something that's a bit more complicated, and that is how to get this set up to actually cut in vinyl. What we're going to want to do is our gray, let's just say we're using regular heat press vinyl. Our gray, we're going to set that color first, and then we're going to put blue and black on top. But where the concern is where the blue and the black are going to connect with one another. There's a concern there because these have to line up perfectly. So we need to have a bit of overlap on one or the other so that it's easier to kind of set this up. So here's what we're going to try. We're going to try a couple of different things, because honestly, in my mind, I don't know exactly how this would work to get the look we want to get. So we'll just play with it a bit. So I'm saying that we're going to lay down the gray as one solid piece. Then we're going to lay black on top, and then we're going to lay blue on top of black. All right? That's how I envision it. So here's what we want to do. I'm going to start with just one. See, right now, this is all grouped together. So let me just right-click and ungroup. Let's just start with one piece. We want the black to be a little bit bigger and underlay the blue. So let's just accomplish that much first. So let's just take your black piece, and let's just say we want it to be, we want the offset to be 1 millimeter. Well, let's see here. First off, let's do this. We need to take our logo, and I kind of forgot about this part, and make it its final size. So let's just say we want it 9.5 inches on a shirt. Okay. Then we can take our shape that we want for our contour, and we can tell it we want a 1mm offset. But here's where the rub is. You could see that it adds a 1mm offset all the way around. But I'm going to actually break this apart by right-clicking and choosing break apart. But what we don't really need that. What we really need is we need the overlap to happen only on part of it. Okay, we don't need the overlap to happen on all of it. So here's how I would probably handle that situation. All right, is what I would do is I would take the whole thing. So we're going to take all the bits here. We have all the bits. We don't have the black bit. So now we have all the bits again that are black and blue, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new boundary based on that. All right? So now we've created a new boundary based on that. Now, hopefully you can get the idea. Do you see the boundary right there? You can't see it here, but you can see it right there, right? And if I take the boundary object and just nudge it, see where the boundary is? You can see that it's right there, right? So I'm going to undo that. So what I want to do now is just take a rectangle. I'm going to draw a big rectangle. I'm going to push it to the bottom. And what we're going to do is take that boundary and my rectangle and combine them. And what we've done is we've created ourselves a cookie cutter. So if you look here, you see what our cookie cutter looks like. And in fact, if I overlay this with a color, now you can really see what our cookie cutter looks like. But right now, the cookie cutter is sitting behind our shape. I'm going to push it up, shift page up, so now you can see. So now this will give a better illustration. So you see that blue, or that yellow rather? That yellow is our new black shape. And you can see everywhere, see it's only overlapping by the blue. Now I know this makes absolutely no sense to you. And I'm sorry for that because it's a little bit complicated to try and explain. And maybe the third or fourth time I do it, I'll have a better way of explaining it. But for now, let's just run with what we got. All right, so we're going to take our orange shape and our yellow shape, and we're going to trim that back. Okay. Now this cookie cutter, I don't think I can use. So for our next step, so I'm just going to kind of put it to the side here because we might come back to it. But now you can see how my yellow shape has been trimmed perfectly. So I'm going to actually delete my black shape because we don't need that no more. So this becomes my new black shape, and I'm just going to do Control page down. And now you can see it's behind. So now if we go into wireframe mode, you see where that overlap is happening partially. Okay? Visually, it still looks the same, but there is a tiny overlap. You can see tiny little bit of overlap where the blue is overlapping. All right? So essentially, what we need to do is we need to do that same thing for all of our black parts. So these are two pieces, but they're really one. So what we're going to do is the same type of process. So let's do our first step and then figure out what kind of cookie cutter we need. So the first step, of course, is to apply our contour. So now our contour has been applied. Let's see, did we go to the outside? There we go. So now our contour is applied to the outside. And if we look at what kind of cookie cutter we need, remember we're going to lay our black down first, and then we're going to put our blue on top. So if we look at the cookie cutter we need, I think we can actually use the same one that we had. I think will actually work out. All right, so first things first, let's break apart that contour. Let's bring in our cookie cutter. What we have to do is kind of have to reset it. So we'll grab it at a point, at a common point, if you will. So we'll go from there, from node to node. And now you can see where that is sitting. And we can go ahead and we can cut this. I got to see once where this is all coming into play. Okay, so now you can kind of see what is going to get trimmed here. And yes, that all looks exactly like it should. So let's just try and take our orange piece. Let's try and take our yellow piece and trim the two. And hopefully that is trimmed where it needed to be trimmed. Let's double click on our yellow piece here. And yes, you can see that this blue is overlapping perfectly. You can kind of see what's happening here. Okay. And remember that what is currently yellow is going to become black, but our blue is going to sit on top. All right, so let's get rid of our existing black. Let's take yellow and make it black, but then make sure our blue is sitting on top. So we take all of our blue bits, shift page up. Now watch this point right here. You'll watch this corner. Shift page up, and now you can see how that will all be affected there. And you can even see this on this side here. Okay, so it all comes, basically it all comes to a point. This needs to come up, shift page up, and now you can see too how that comes. So this piece can be connected all together like so. All right, so I know none of that made sense, or it's very difficult to explain that whole exact process. And most people wouldn't actually take the time to do all of that. But when you do, remember, it just makes it easier to create the shirt. You'll get a more perfected result. So you have an extra little bit of wiggle room. So let's just double click on this and look again. You see all those overlaps are all perfect, right? So that's the black, and then you're seeing the blue is sitting on top. So you can see how that is all going to kind of, the blue is going to kind of capsize all of our, encapsulate all of the black and give us a nice finished result. But I'm going to tell you right now, this design is, because of all of its real sharp points, is a bit tricky to get lined up perfect on a shirt. But by taking the extra time here and getting all these overlaps set on the one color, you're going to have pretty decent results. Now, we can go one step further and complicate this a little bit more, and I think it's good to do it. And that is the next step, although I will cheat perhaps and use Easy Stone for this one piece. So let's just, because we have the function available, so we might as well go ahead and use it. And that, the one extra step here, you can see that the gray right now is completely solid. And you notice I made a copy. Depending on exactly what we want to do, we may want that completely solid, we may not. I personally would probably make it solid if I was not doing glitter. You can layer certain heat press glitter materials too, so don't be afraid that you can't. What I would probably do, honestly, if I wanted to use glitter, I would do the background here and not glitter, and then do the two colors on top in glitter. If I was doing glitter, I wouldn't necessarily do it all in glitter. But I just want to take that one extra step, and basically that one extra step is to create a new boundary object. So let's go ahead and do that. We have our new boundary object, and all we're going to do, let me just give the boundary a color so we can see it. And basically all we're going to do, I'm going to get rid of the outline. That's added by default. Basically all we're going to do is trim away the excess gray that the blue and the black is sitting on top of. So all we do is take our pink, hold our shift key, grab our gray, and then we have a function here in Vinyl Essentials, which is the inside overlap option. So if we click on inside overlap and click on the overlap objects, you're going to get an overlap. So if I delete my pink and I take my gray and I shove it to the bottom, shift page down in CorelDRAW, but watch, when I double click on gray, do you see how now instead of a solid gray, there's that slight overlap? See, the black is going to sit on top of. Um, I personally, you may not want to do that extra step, but now you can see there's a hole there. So we don't have layers and layers and layers sitting on top of one another. It's just an extra step. But it's a complicated process of getting these files set up the correct way. But if you take the time to do it, and the more of them that you do, the easier it is to actually accomplish the task. But this is a much more perfected way. When you have a very simple logo like this, it's, most often it's much better to recreate the artwork rather than try and trace it or some goofy thing like that. And then, of course, you can take the extra steps of doing all the trapping and everything to make it perfect. But hopefully this will give you some insight on the process. And, like I say, you might take from this video what you can, because it is a bit complicated, and every logo, as far as the trapping part of the situation, every logo is a little bit different. But that's how we do it in this one, and then you can kind of see just our thought process as we put this together. Thanks for watching.